1 minute till wheels up. Sure, go ahead. Good afternoon. This meeting is called to order. For the record, the time is 1:30 p.m. The date is October 21st, 2025. The commission and staff are appearing from Helena, Montana in the Bollinger Room of the Montana Public Service Commission. I am Brad Molnar. I'm the presiding chairman for this meeting. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for the record, the following commissioners are here in person. We have Commissioner Wellborn, Commissioner Panucci, myself, of course, Commissioner Bukacek, and Commissioner Fielder. Therefore, the quorum of 5 is present. The Public Service Commission welcomes any comment on any item that is on today's agenda or any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission. Are there any public commenters in the room? Seeing none. Are there any public commenters online? Okay, we have 4 that are scheduled. The first is Lily Beck. Lily, can you hear me? Lily Beck, can you hear me? We'll come back to Lily. Commenter number 2, Jeff Patterson. Jeff, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Jeff, please spell your last name. Tell us the town you're from. Do not give your physical address.
Sure. My name is Jeff Pattison, Pattison. I reside in Valley County, so I have property up from the Canadian line all the way to the Milk River, over to Hinsdale, Glasgow, and Opine. So that's pretty much where I'm at. So at any given time. So, Mr. President and fellow commissioners, I'm not calling in today for, it's kind of a sad deal, actually. I was looking at your work session and there's a lot of questions that I have, and can't quite figure out where all this stuff is coming from, but as a public service commissioner, it's a public service, not personal service. So I know you're going to be voting today according to your work session, or you're going to be talking about it, changing your rule change to lower the threshold from 4 to 3 votes for removals or censures. I honestly think that that makes minority purges easier and it deepens instability and undermines accountability. That's my personal feelings on that. I think that goes back to the letter that was written to the governor. I feel strongly that that should have been put to a vote of 4-1 to send that out. As a result, it's created lawsuits, a lot of consternation. People are saying, what is going on up there? I thought they were supposed to watch over our utilities and do the other services that the public service commissioners are sanctioned to do, and they're spending a lot of time and money on that. So that brings up a question that Ron Hemp brought up a couple weeks ago that I was listening to. He's talking about lawyer fees. How much is it costing? Who's paying? It shouldn't be the ratepayers. This is kind of a ongoing deal that I think is kind of maybe goes back to some stuff that happened back on a Senate Bill 459 with Commissioner involved with Speaker Regier. I think that should be brought up. If you want to start bringing stuff up, that would be a great place to even talk about too. So if a commissioners are elected by the districts, I think the electors for that commissioner should have a say in what happens on there. And I think that's a part of their First Amendment right to not only free speech, but to petition. So those are some questions that I have. I know you probably can't take the time to address all of them with me personally, but I'm not the only one that feels that or has those questions. And furthermore, in the press, which some of this stuff has been coming out more and more and more, I happened to get a copy of a paper called the Liberty Bell. And I started reading through that, and I'm wanting to know if this stuff is true, and maybe Commissioner Fielder could address that at some time when you guys have your work session and you want to start talking about influence or things that are happening on there. So, like I said, I'm not trying to pick or poke, but if we're going to go for discovery, let's go for the whole discovery. So that's what I have to say, and I would listen to your deliberations with interest, and hopefully at some point or someday, maybe there could be public comments at the end of a session, because maybe what I've said, it would be addressed and taken care of already, and I wouldn't even have to worry about it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. We'll circle back real quick. Lily Beck, can you hear me? Lily Beck, can you hear me? You say she's on mute? Lily Beck, please, if you can hear me, please check your phone to see if you're, or your device to see if you're on mute. We'll circle back. Next is Ron Hemp from Sealy Lake. Ron, can you hear me?
This is actually Lisa Bennett.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Ron Hemp, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Commissioner Molnar.
Mr. Hep, can you spell your last name? Tell us where you're from, but do not give a personal address.
Commissioners, my name is Ron Hepp, H-E-P-P, from Sealy Lake, Montana. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion on the ongoing dispute that was instigated by Commissioner Fielder against Commission President Molnar. I believe the basis for the investigation was invented by Commissioner Fielder for political purposes that she is trying to keep covered up. Also, she cannot handle another commissioner's comments. Perhaps she has no business being a public service commissioner dealing with issues such as setting electricity rates. Doesn't Commissioner Fielder have better things to do, such as analyzing the merger between Northwestern Energy and Black Hills Corporation? Perhaps she will just rubber stamp this merger, as she has approved every Northwestern Energy rate increase request. I'd say Commissioner Molnar, in his experience, would make him invaluable, as he rightfully opposed the sale of Northwestern Energy to Australia's Babcock and Brown infrastructure, as Molnar is the only existing commissioner to deal with something of this magnitude. The public and ratepayers also have a right to know who is paying and how much for this investigation, and Commissioner Fielder's attorney fees. And this is something I'd like to expound upon a little more. Who even authorized this investigation? And who approved that Commissioner Fielder could go out and hire outside attorneys? Doesn't the state have attorneys to do the state's work? I would say that I demand that the public knows what this is costing the ratepayers and the taxpayers. I believe Commissioner Fielder personally should pay for all costs, including any attorney fees incurred by Commissioner Molnar. If Commissioner Fielder can't do the work she was elected to, perhaps she should step down from her position. Commissioner Molnar was elected by his constituency to represent their interests. End this charade and get to work representing the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hepp. Circling back very quickly, Lily Beck, are you on and can you hear me? Patricia, can we tell if she's on mute or online?
Hi,
or-
this is actually Lisa Bennett. Are you calling on me?
I'm calling on Lily Beck, B-E-C-K. Pardon? Are you filling in for Lily Beck? Is that the idea?
No, I'm not filling in. I'm not just wondering if my name got entered in wrong. This is actually Lisa Bennett.
Just a second. We'll talk to Lily Beck and we'll see if somehow that became Lisa Bennett. Lily Beck, can you hear me? Lily Beck, can you hear me? Can you check to see if
The
you're...
Beck's not there, Brad.
Pardon? Okay, now, next we'll go to Carla Johnson. Lisa Bennett, did you register to, okay, we're getting
I
a nod.
did.
Apparently we have 5 instead of 4. Oh, wait a minute. Aha, we have 6. So I wasn't aware of that. I'm sorry. Ms. Bennett, we'll get to you shortly. Carla Johnson, can you please, can you hear me?
Yes, it's Carla with a K.
Yes, Carla, can you spell
Johnson.
your last name, the city you're
J.
from, but do not give your personal address?
Johnson, Johnsson. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to call in. I was on the other call as well earlier, I think this month. But do we even know what President Brad Molnar is being accused of? Because I never got that. Like, what is he being accused of? Was there a trial? Was he arrested? Like, and how did it get to these steps? It seems to me premature that possibly there should have been an investigation and maybe then a vote or something. It doesn't seem like his civil liberties have been followed. Like, it just seems very confusing to the public. He is my public service commissioner for my area of the state. And I feel like I'm not going to have representation. I voted and I need to know that my vote did count and it counts for something. I just feel like everything was kind of premature. I feel like there should have been either an arrest. What did he actually do? Do we even know that? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. We'll circle back later in a moment. Commenter number 5, Lisa Bennett from Red Lodge. Ms. Bennett, please spell your last name, say where you're from, but do not go into your personal address.
Lisa Bennett, LISA.
B-E-N-N-E-T-T.
Just a second. We seem to be getting some echo here. Is there some way to take that out, Philip? Can you do that?
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, far, far better. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize. I think that was on my end.
Please continue.
I will start over. Lisa Bennett, Lisa Bennett. I'm from Red Lodge, Montana. And like the other callers, I'm calling on the same issue, but I think possibly from a different standpoint. I'm not taking sides with any of the commissioners. The commissioners probably have better information than I do on what's going on. And I'm just saying from a constitutional perspective and also from a future bill perspective. President Molnar and I were in person during session to testify against a bill that would have taken away voters' rights to elect 3 out of the 5 commissioners and allow the governor to appoint. I am diametrically opposed to having a bill like that pass, because then our commissioners are beholden to the governor versus the people that they represent. And the commission represents us, the ratepayers, not any government agency, entity, or elected official. So what I'm concerned with is that we currently have litigation over a situation that involves my representative, Brad Molnar. And there's also an internal PSC investigation into this matter that, as far as I'm currently aware, is active, unsettled, and as a result, I don't know what the commissioners know, but the public does not have any idea what my commissioner, Brad Molnar, is being accused of. But regardless of whether we even know or not, the fact of the matter is that our Constitution protects people and they are considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I think that this matter of what's happening with my commissioner, Brad Molnar, is going to be fuel for the fire to get a bill passed to allow the governor to appoint and therefore control the PSC, because if he appoints 3 out of the 5, he in essence controls the commission. And I don't want to see that happen. I would like for this matter to be quickly resolved at the PSC internally without it being everywhere out in the public, adding fuel once again to the fire of changing the way that voters get to pick the public service commissioners that represent them. And that is the number one thing that I want to protect, along with Brad Molnar's constitutional rights. And I think that if you guys go and change your rules right now to make it easier to remove Brad or anyone else from a position of authority, what you're really in this and doing it while there's still an active investigation and parallel litigation that's all unresolved at this point, you're weaponizing your internal procedures to achieve some kind of internal public service commission, public and political agenda and ends. And that's why we've got legislators wanting to pass bills to get people appointed instead of having the voters vote for them, because then it's easier to remove a public service commissioner that's not doing the right thing. And I personally don't want to make it easier to remove someone, especially if they're elected, and I want to keep them elected. So changing your threshold now, it just churns out suspicion. And it makes it seem like without a fully developed factual record of what happened, we're effectively going to allow a more narrow majority to override the electorate's will, and they're going to sidestep due process protections, which is very concerning, disconcerting, I guess. So I would ask that the commission postpone a vote until after guilt has been determined and they realize that whatever that guilt is, that it's commensurate with removing an officer. Because if this ends up being something that most people in the public would consider not as serious an allegation, as the litigation is now producing, it's just going to be egg on the face of this commission. And I think this commission needs to start saving face. And that means get on with your investigation and let's move forward with something that's commensurate with the allegation, or the proven allegation, I should say. A 3-vote removal mechanism becomes a standing invitation to purge political opponents and chill independent oversight of utilities. It's going to encourage strategic timing of allegations to influence regulatory outcomes. And that is extremely serious and dangerous and should not be allowed. The practical consequences will be sustained instability in the PSC, which is charged with protecting us, the ratepayers. It'll also lead to higher legal costs that once again are going to be borne by us, the ratepayers. And this persistent diversion of the commission's time from utility oversight to deal with this internal political warfare that's going on is very destructive and counterproductive. So I'm just asking that you suspend any vote on this till there's more of a public accounting and the investigation has been complete and President Molnar has had the opportunity to have a hearing to defend himself and the facts can be ascertained. You know, one thing I was disappointed, I also was on the call, I think it was early September, when Commissioner Wellborn requested or actually made a comment that Molnar hadn't apologized yet. I have no idea if Commissioner Molnar knows what the accusations are against him. I know we, the public, don't know, but if he isn't privy to all the information, how can you ask someone to apologize for something that they're not even sure what it is? So I'm just going to say, don't commit to codifying anything in your rules until after this investigation is complete and the hearing that Brad is allowed to have to defend himself is complete. And the courts have done whatever the courts need to do in this matter now that they're involved. And that we need to codify safeguards that are going to protect due process, not make it easier to not have due process. We need meaningful opportunity to respond, to have public hearings, et cetera, when there's an allegation that's this serious that you guys would even consider removing one of your officers that you guys voted in. We didn't even vote Brad in as president. You on the commission did. And so I'm just requiring a review and time. Don't rush into anything because it's going to be harder for me to testify in the legislature next time around on why we shouldn't have the governor appoint these positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Next, we have Pat Plowman from Carbon County. Pat, can you hear me? Pat, are you online? We will circle back to the point of the beginning, as they say. Lily Beck, are you online? Can you hear me? One last time, Pat Plowman, can you hear me? Seeing no others, we may circle back to them at the end of this. The announcement.
Commissioner Molnar, this is Lisa Bennett. I'm being asked to unmute when I think you're trying to get someone else to unmute, so I'm not sure if you guys are having a technical difficulty.
We've had those in the past. Philip, are we having any technical difficulties? Do you know?
Ms. Bennett, you're listed on as a participant 2 times, one by phone number and one by name. So I will stop asking you to unmute.
Lily Beck, can you hear me? Pat Palman, can you hear me? We will move on. We may circle back at the end should they show up. Announcements, a small change. Work session item number 1 and item number 2 are reversed. So item 2 will be number 1 and number 1 shall be number 2. By unanimous vote during the scheduling meeting. Action item number 1, approval of the meeting minutes for the week October 14th, 2025. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. President, I move approval of the commission minutes for the week of October 14th.
We have a motion for approval. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, there's, I think, a typographical error that I think staff can just correct when they see it, but it's where it says Commissioner Bukacek moved to correct 2 typographical errors in the commission minutes for the week of October 067. So it probably needs to be either 06 or 07. So, with that correction,
Okay, with that announcement for minor clerical change, is there any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of adoption of the minutes as amended, say aye.
I
Aye.
Those opposed, it passes 5-0. I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to take a 5-minute break. So we'll come back into order at 2 o'clock. Tricia, have we heard anything from the 2 that weren't on? If that changes, you're gonna give me the high sign and I'll circle back to them. Okay, 1 minute. Long 1 minute. I'll try 7 seconds on the both sometime. Okay, we're back in session. Because I'm old, I forgot one announcement. Not that it's gonna rock the pillars, but myself and it appears Commissioner Panucci will both have seats on the various committees of the Southwest Power Pool that will all become active after training, which will be October 2nd or November 2nd. Other than that, we now move on to our action, to our work session items. Like I said, item number 2 shall be number 1. So docket 2025.10.70.75, internal policy manual to consider amendments to the internal policy manual of conduct and administrative policies. Commissioner, this is yours if you want comments or if you want to make a motion. If you want to bifurcate those into various things, this is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that. First of all, there's no amendment proposed for the administration policy. That is a amendment that staff had prepared and haven't brought it forward for you, so that's not in your packet today. So I move in accordance with the notice given, the adoption of the amendments to the internal policy manual code of conduct policy. And if the motion is seconded, I'd like to explain it.
There's a second.
I second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Okay.
So please continue.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Thank you, Commissioner Bukacek, for the second. I appreciate that. So I sent out the red line to the Code of Conduct policy more than 30 days ago to commission leadership, commission management, and all the commissioners. And the red line is a little bit difficult to read because some of the policy amendments would reorganize some sections of the policy, move some things to other areas. So I provided you for today a really clean copy of how the policy would read if the amendments are adopted. And the majority of the changes, the substantive effective changes, I've got highlighted in yellow so you can see exactly what is proposed here to be changed. This would be subject to clerical edits and renumbering accordingly. But to walk through this, the first, and this was based off, this proposal was based off putting this policy into practice and actually using it. Some things we've learned about that, some questions that have been raised about it, perhaps some confusion that can be clarified better by writing this better, and also some feedback we've received from commissioners and staff as well. So the first one would add a member to the response team in section 2.15. Right now, the response team is comprised of 4 top-level agency managers. That's the president, the executive director, the chief legal counsel, and the agency human resources officer. And the First Amendment would add the vice president to that, so there would be more representation from the commission on the response team. That was a request, I believe, that came from Commissioner Panucci several weeks ago. The second highlighted area in that same paragraph reorganizes and clarifies that if a member of the response team is the subject of a complaint that or that they are removed from the administration of the complaint and any investigative process. And that means including the approval of contracts and payment for outside services associated with the case. That is the intent of the Code of Conduct as originally written, but there's been some questions about that. So this clarifies and answers that. If you're the subject, if you're on the response team, but you're the subject of the complaint, you're excused or excluded from the administration of the complaint and the investigation. The third amendment is in that same paragraph, and this reflects the precedent, the standard practice that's being used here. For the most part, a member of the response team may recuse themselves, but it also explains here that an alternate member may be selected at the discretion of the response team. That way, if somebody has to come off and the response team feels that another person is needed, they can select somebody to fill that void. So that's the first paragraph you see highlighted in yellow, and that's what that does. That's what those amendments do in effect. The next section, you will see it says "and resolve the matter" highlighted. This is just another clarification. It's inferred that the response team's responsibility is to try to resolve conflict within the agency in a confidential way through this HR process. And this just clarifies that their goal is not just to discuss it and not just to look into it, but to attempt to resolve it if they can. The next paragraph is one that goes to what happens if a commissioner or a member of the staff actually actively interferes with the duties of the response team as they are trying to carry out the duties assigned by the Code of Conduct policy, or if a member of the commission or a member of staff engages in retaliation under the lawful term of retaliation. So this amendment clarifies what the commission has already affirmed, and that is in those special circumstances where there's clear interference and clear retaliation or both, the response team managers have the authority to request the suspension of a commissioner under 69-113 for the temporary suspension sufficient to prevent further interference or retaliation in that process. If it happens to be another member of the staff, not a commissioner, then the managers have the authority to do that themselves without needing to go through the governor, but clearly management doesn't have the authority to suspend a commissioner, only a staff member. So that amendment clarifies what the commission affirmed on September 3rd when it sustained the decision of the response team to request a suspension of a member who was interfering and or retaliating in their process. The next amendment is at the title, the top of the second page of the yellow highlighted paper that I gave to you. And this would be a new section 216, and this is corrective action. And this is also based on precedent, and it would allow the response team to prescribe corrective action by persons found to have been violating the policy, but who demonstrate a sincere commitment to correcting their behavior. So if we have a willing person that has been talked to, has been the subject of reports of violations, and they're willing to work on correcting that, the response team can work with them to correct that. And I think we've seen some success with that happening here in the agency. So that would just make it clear that that is also an option for the response team. Hopefully things can be corrected at that level without having to go any further. The next thing would be some renumbering of 2.16 would become 2.17, and then renumbering 2.17 to 2.18. And the final red line here or change would be under the discipline for noncompliance section. And this would change the threshold of how many commissioners it takes to take action to address disciplinary measures. We would put a very high threshold in there when this policy was written at 4 commissioners. But we have also found that every single decision that this agency makes can be made with a minimum of 3 commissioners. Some decisions can actually be made, many decisions can be made with just 2 commissioners. So this would restore the ability of the commission, a majority of the commission, to take action if it found that action was necessary. So I think that all of these amendments put together are designed to help respond to the feedback and the questions that have been raised, to affirm what the past practice and precedent that has already been established, to reduce the length of time and angst and cost that can be involved without these clarifications. And those are the amendments as proposed, and I would ask for the commission to pass the amendments, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? I have some. Commissioner Fielder went through those in mass, did not bifurcate. So I would ask that I not be interrupted when I go through them in mass as well. According to the Vice President, the response team has a permanent member on the PSC leadership to take total control of the direction of the response team and timing of same. So that if the president isn't there, the vice president can fill in. This would be they're both there. This would be a continuation of the current practice of advancing some complaints to investigation and settlement and letting others languish, protecting certain commissioners and staff. This has been going on for several months. Many complaints simply don't move beyond the complaint stage. This is prohibited by the state Montana Discipline Handling Guide. Can't do that. The response team may contract and pay for outside services associated with the case. The reason this is here is they don't have that capacity. Several have talked about dollar amounts, what's being spent, who signed it. This amendment gives carte blanche to this and future response teams to contract for unlimited amounts for any number of reasons, including political reasons. The necessity for this amendment is that currently the response team has never had a contract okayed by the commission for investigatory services or outside legal services, nor did they accept bids for same. Look at all we've gone through trying to get a technical master, the requirements that are there. Those were all ignored, and we went forward. Currently, billing for all legal fees are being withheld until after the close of my case. So I really can't tell you how much they are. With one attorney for the investigation and 3 to defend Commissioner Fielder's August 20th letter to the governor, using the same amount as I paid last month for legal services for one attorney as a barometer, that should be close to $50,000, which exceeds the amount allowed by law for a contract above the $10,000 limit, $25,000 limit, any limit that's outside of it. This new amendment attempts to get around the commission and public oversight while indemnifying bad commission actors. Once they've done it, it's considered a commission action, and therefore the whoever signed those is considered to be indemnified. In the court's most recent ruling on the letter to the governor, it is clear, and he stated that a person may ask the governor to suspend the commissioner for good cause, MCA 691113. 113 does not allow an agency to make the request, and a proper form is not needed. In other words, the Attorney General can't send in a request to the governor. The Attorney General can as a person, but not the agency. The IPM cannot add to that or any statute via an internal policy. To attempt to do so, to indemnify a commissioner or staff and to cause ratepayers to pay for same is not a good enough reason to add to the statute. There is no capacity to add or subtract words to the statute except through amendment of the statute. Thus far, one member of the response team has alleged retaliation, Commissioner Fielder. When asked by my counsel to name the person retaliated against, she has not responded.
Mr. President, I would
In their last,
raise a point of order.
no, I did
Mr.
not interrupt you,
Mr.
and
President,
I don't care.
I rise to a point of order. The chair is required to acknowledge the point of order and ask the commissioner to state the point of order.
I asked the commissioner to state the point of order, and I will rule on whether or not that is appropriate at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that. So the point of order is that the amendments do not go to a specific instance or case. They do not go to the investigation of your conduct. I did not discuss that in my amendment. It's nowhere in this amendment. So I would just ask that you stay within the scope of the actual amendment and refrain from trying to litigate your case that's in front of the court, if you would, please.
And I would rule that to discuss the effect of an amendment is more than proper. And I shall continue with that. No different than the legislature anywhere. You want to amend the bill, they talk about the effect of it. You want to amend this, we're going to talk about the effect of it. So there is no capacity to add or subtract words except through amendment of the statute. Thus far, one member of the response team has alleged retaliation, Commissioner Fielder. When asked by my counsel to name the person retaliated against, she has not responded. In their last court filings, Commissioner Fielder's 3 extra attorneys filed a brief that retaliation was possible. Not that it had happened, but did not claim any had taken place. To codify that,
Mr. President, point of order.
it had better be outside of what I just ruled on.
So you're making this personal, and therefore it would seem inappropriate that you're chairing something that you have made personal. You're the chair of this meeting, and and you're making it about you, which that was not the original intent. So I question.
I've already ruled on this. To talk about the effect is exactly appropriate. Whether I use my examples or you want to use your examples, they are appropriate.
Robert's Rules of Order, Section 4710, quote, whenever a motion is made that refers to the presiding officer in a capacity not shared in common with other members, he should turn the chair over to the vice president during the assembly's consideration of that moment.
Because this can happen to any commissioner in the future if these are adopted, your objection is not sustained. So the 3 that retaliation was possible but did not claim any had taken place. To codify that any person, this goes to your objection, without proof, may take action against another for retaliation via their own creative definition of.
Point of order, Mr. President. Our meetings are to follow Robert's rules.
We are following Robert's rules. I'm now talking about any person, so we're far beyond what you brought up. Their own creative definition of retaliation is fertile soil for legal action against the PSC for violation of free speech. And that can be in the millions, To say that if you hold a press conference, we will send you to the governor is retaliation as against the whistleblower statutes at the federal level, and those are all in the millions.
Point of order, Mr. President.
I did not at any time
Point of
attempt
order.
to interrupt you.
Point of order, Mr. President. This is my 3rd request.
And then what, you're done?
No,
No.
this then, if you would allow me to state my point of order, I will state it.
Very briefly.
Okay, Mr. President, you are trying to litigate a specific case in court, and I think it's inappropriate to try to litigate that here. That case is before the judge, and you lost.
It is not
But-
before the judge.
But anyway, this is inappropriate because you're going to a specific court case. You're trying to litigate that here. And what this is an amendment to our code of conduct policy. It's a explanation of it. If you have questions about it, if you want to ask questions about it, if you want to state your opposition to it, that's one thing. But I think you're going far beyond that. And again, I would ask the president to maintain his comments on the motion that's before the commission and refrain from attempting to litigate in this setting.
Nothing is being litigated. This is my response. When I said that the codification will affect any person, I'm not talking about me. My case is out of court. I'm talking about if somebody brings it on you or a commissioner 2 years from now or 5 years from now, that you can't say that the response team will say you've taken retaliation because you held a press conference, because your attorney wrote a letter, because an article was written in a newspaper, which are all in your example, which could be followed. I'm saying that nobody can use a creative definition. It has to be within law and defined, and it's not. So again, I'm maybe using a current example, but I'm talking about the future because current examples are past. So for any violation of free speech, and that cost can be in the millions, I've got examples, and that without any benefit of any other purposeful, bad actors can and would claim indemnification. That's the problem. The statute says a person, not a response team, not a commission, not a separate agency. Like I say, the Attorney General's office can't ask for suspension, but any member that works there can as a person. That's the law. Top of page 2, if a person is found to have violated this policy, shows a sincere commitment to correcting, etc. So what if there is no sincere commitment to corrective action through the eyes of the response team? I have no idea. 2.17, 4 commissioners to 3. It's the second time I've been through this. Because I went to Washington, D.C. and testified before FERC, Commissioner Kavula, with the 2 Democrats on the commission, moved to remove the leadership of the chairman,
Point of order.
Mr. Gallagher. I am done with your point of order. If you don't have one that is brand new, I will hold you in contempt.
You're making it personal again.
I am using an example from the past as to what happens in the future. What happens in the future might not be personal, because if I resign, you get to handle my duties. Welcome to being a member of the OMS.
You're talking about your case.
No, I'm talking about 10 years ago, what this will affect, which is the outcome of an amendment, which is well within my authority as a commissioner. I've never called point of order on you. I would ask that you save your responses for after I'm done. Travis Kavula moved to remove the chairman, Bill Gallagher, and I resigned. So it didn't affect me. When you have 3, which is what we had, we currently have 4, I'm talking about the amendment, any one of the 3 can inform the president, vice president. You either give me what I want as a committee assignment on NARUC, OMS, whatever, or we take you out. It's that easy. I've lived with it. And frankly, as you'll soon hear, that the chair and the vice chair, the Kavula Carta actually said it was 10 things in the press, nothing secret
Mr.
about it.
President, point of order.
I am done. I am done. Unless you have something new to say, you've used up your 3.
No, Mr. President, I appeal the
Kavula?
ruling of the chair to the body for a vote. Shall the decision of the chair be sustained?
The chair runs the meeting. I'm running the meeting.
No, Mr. President, the ruling has been appealed to the body of the chair. I mean, to the body of the
What
commission.
is your
The
ruling?
commission can vote.
What is your ruling?
I move to appeal the ruling of the chair regarding the scope of his statements being outside of the motion before us.
And I would say
Mr.
that
President,
everybody gets to say what they want to say, and to talk about the effect of an amendment is well within my authority.
there's a motion before the body now, Mr. President. The motion is, shall the ruling of the chair be sustained, or should it not? You need to call the vote.
I'm going to ask somebody, seeing as how the chairman runs the meeting, is it appropriate to take that away for a political purpose or any purpose?
Mr. President, we are now in a motion on appeal, section 24.
And
of
I'm
Robert's-
appealing that to somebody that might know if you have that authority.
Robert's Rules of Order. A motion is in order. It is not amendable. And it is up to the majority of the commission to decide if the ruling of the chair should be sustained or not. It is the obligation of the president or the chair to call for the vote. If the chair refuses to call for the vote, the next motion will be to replace the chair for the remainder of the meeting.
I still don't understand your motion exactly. What is it your motion is?
My motion is to appeal the ruling of the chair regarding the scope of the chair's comments being outside the scope of the motion before the commission. And I call for the question.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of restricting the comments, say aye.
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 Those opposed, aye.
Eh,
Okay, so now I continue.
Mr. President, you may continue, but within the scope of the motion that's before, which is specifically the amendment and the language in the amendment, not the people's names or stories of the past, bringing up
Okay.
other people's
Okay,
names.
so what happens, as history tells us, and that's why we were at 4. And you want to go back to 3, the chaos from a 3-2 vote lasted until 2020 because 3 people can tell 2 leadership what to do or what not to do, what's allowed, what's not allowed. The fight never ended until the adoption of 4-1. So perhaps the vice chairman can tell us the advantage of going back to 3-2 when it was her amendment that recognized the dysfunction of 3-2 and went to 4-1.
Are you asking me to yield for a question?
I'm asking you to explain your position.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that. When this code of conduct policy was passed back in August of 2024, the commission had worked on it for many, many months. And it had been before the commission once before that, and it had been in 2 public meetings twice before that as well to be discussed. And I don't think anybody anticipated that the response team process would be this lengthy, this time consuming, and would deal with, frankly, such unreasonableness. So the amendments put here today are to ensure that the code of conduct process is smoother, it can be done more efficiently, it can be done more effectively, and that the democratic process of the majority rules will be restored on the commission, so that if the majority of the commission believes a change in its leadership needs to be made, particularly it would be able to do that without months and months and months of process involved in that.
Okay,
And this amendment would apply to myself as an officer of the commission, as well as yourself as an officer, or any other person who may be an officer in the future. It's not necessarily specific to any one person, but as I explained when I opened on my amendment, that the largest decisions that this commission makes can be passed with 2 votes. Are you aware of that? It can be passed with 2 votes. The largest decisions this commission makes can be passed with 2 votes. Are you aware of that?
and they can be overturned.
Overturned by?
3. So thank you for that rendition.
Reconsideration.
I don't know that that's necessarily within the scope of my question, but are you currently done?
No,
Oh,
I would
okay.
just say that that the most major decisions, that any decision that this body makes can be passed by a quorum of commissioners present and a majority of the quorum. So a quorum is 3 commissioners. The majority present would be 2. And so a regulatory rate case can actually be decided by 2 commissioners if there's only 3 present. This standard actually is still a higher standard that's being proposed in the amendment, is still a higher standard than is required for the major regulatory cases that the commission deals with. So it's still a high standard. It's just a little bit lower than it was before. And I think it needs to be that way, Mr. President, so that a minority of commissioners cannot paralyze the commission from taking action when it feels it needs to take action.
Okay, thank you for that. And of course, my point was that we had tremendous dysfunction at that level. So I do have an alternative motion. Do I need a second at this point, or do I read it in and then I make my motion? What are you thinking?
If you're going to move a amendment or a substitute motion,
Substitute
that
motion.
would then require a second.
Okay, my substitute motion is, and then I'll need a second apparently, that my motion is Alana Lake shall restart the effort to allow staff to offer amendments to the internal policy manual. It shall be completed by November 28th. The suggestions shall be screened for duplication by the department heads and passed for consideration to the commission. If a requested amendment is not passed on to the commission, the petitioner may advance same to the commission. The commission shall vote on proposed amendments in public session by the end of business December 16th, 2025. Do I hear a second? We have a motion, we have a second. My discussion would be, everybody here is pretty well aware, I believe, that early on during the session, I said I really don't want any conflict during the session. We're all busy. But within a month after adjournment, we will start the process of letting staff and the employees here actually have their own input into what the internal policy manual means, says, and effectuates, because there was a lot of dissatisfaction. It took some arm twisting to even get the final 10 to sign it. 2 commissions still have not signed it. So instead of a top-down weaponization of the internal policy manual, I want a bottom-up so that it reflects the commission and it reflects, because they get the final vote, and it reflects staff so that they have their input. I find that far superior to what's going on here today.
Mr. President, can I ask for a little information on that? Is your motion to amend the IPM in that way, the way you just read?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
as opposed to what we're doing today.
Okay, Mr. President, if that's a proposed amendment to the IPM, it would need to be distributed 30 days in advance.
Well, I misspoke. This is to start the process for gathering the amendments. Those then would face the 30-day. Once the commission wants to take action and the process is done, then your 30 days would kick in. Right now, this is to take an alternative method to get to the point of amendment.
Okay. So I would think the motion is out of order, but you're the chair, so obviously you made the motion.
That's why I get the big bucks.
Okay.
We're talking about amendments. This is an alternative way to amend. It's bottom up, staff driven. There's nothing out of order about it. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes.
So legal staff especially was very involved in writing the policy manual. It did not come it was not top down. So they've already been involved.
What we're dealing with today is definitely top down. We are telling the staff what they're going to be under, what their rights are or are not, which if you actually read the state guide, far outside of the law and state rule. And internal policy cannot override rule. So to take a second look at this through the eyes of those that are affected, those whose jobs can be terminated, to just say that pursuant to, that's what I need for discipline. So I really don't care who all was involved. I've talked to quite a few people that were around back then. There was a lot of concern. And first time I read through it, the internal or the external independent review caught my eye, because that's a lot like going to the Commission of Political Practices the way it was. Depends on who the governor was that appointed him. If it was a Republican, Republicans won. If it was a Democrat, Democrats won. So this is a simple motion to allow staff to have input on their own internal policy manual instead of it being dictated top down 3-2.
So, Mr. President, just to be clear then, your substitute motion would supplant my motion to amend the policy manual?
Yes, it would, because the amendments would take place independently. So, yes, there would be no vote on this today. Other than this, we start a process for staff involvement. Hopefully we can get into due process. As you know, my complaint was due process. Due process on page 6, I was told it didn't exist. So yes, this would become the motion of this work item.
Okay. Well, Mr. President, I'm going to ask my colleagues to vote no on your motion, and here's why. The amendment process for the policy manual is already spelled out in the IPM. Okay, so it sounds to me like you want to amend the IPM, and in order to do that, you actually have to give notice 30 days in advance to the staff, to the commissioners, so they can review it and discuss it with the mover and with each other, so that we can all be well informed about our positions on something by the time it gets here. And that 30-day notice for your amendment was not given. The 30-day notice for my amendment was. And there was discussion at the management meetings. There was discussion with staff about this amendment. So it was not just a top down. There was more notice for this than there is for any regulatory docket that we deal with.
That may be, but again, I am not amending it, so that is not correct. I am saying that this is how amendments can be brought forward, and that is not outside what is currently there. What is currently there is how we vote on the amendments, not how the amendments are circulated through staff.
Mr. President, that's actually incorrect. The process for amending is spelled out in what's called the internal policy manual policy, which is policy number 3 in your book. And this policy's purpose is to provide the basis for the Department of Public Service Regulation internal policy manual and establish the parameters for its content, use, applicability, distribution, protection, and the process for amending it. So that process is already spelled out in the policy manual. And if you want to change that process, I would suggest you draft up a red line for changing the process.
Again, I'm not asking for an amendment. I'm asking for information on what amendments might be necessary.
Okay, well, I'm finished. I'm
Okay.
going to vote no.
I
Mr.
think
President?
staff would appreciate the opportunity to have some say in their internal policy manual. All those who
Mr.
think that
President,
they shouldn't will be allowed to vote a no, and those that think that perhaps staff should be allowed to file should vote yes. Commissioner Bukacek, you get one shot. You don't get to argue this. You just get to state your position.
Your amendment is based on a false presupposition, and that false presupposition is that staff was not involved with the original IPM and staff was not involved with this amendment process. That's a false presupposition.
That's not true. I don't make any supposition. I'm saying that they get to bring forward their ideas, no matter what was brought forward in the past or not brought forward in the past. Every time the commission changes, we have 1 or 2 new commissioners. Perhaps we should take a second look at this because we have a new commission to say that now, between now and then, a year and a half from now, staff simply lives with what is fed to them. The activities to get both commissioners to sign were horrendous. At the end of the exit interview for the policy, for our audit, the only thing that was left undone was apparently the IPM, and I asked how many people have not signed it. It had been 10. Commissioners that had not signed it was 4. Within a week, it was 0 and 2. When I've talked to people as to what happened,
Hearsay,
I
Mr.
was
President.
aghast.
Point of order. Hearsay.
I'm just going to call the question and see if we can vote on your substitute motion, Mr. President.
okay, wait a minute, should I point out that the definition of hearsay is not up to Commissioner Bukacek. So based on that, all those who think that my alternative motion should pass will say aye. Aye. Those who don't will say no.
Oh,
No.
3-2. We're going to stay on this trajectory.
Mr. President, just to clarify, the motion failed 2-3 for the record. Correct? All right. So, Mr. President, we're back on the main motion, correct?
I believe so,
Um,
unless you've got another alternative.
can we vote on the main motion?
We have some discussion coming up.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right, so I'm getting a lot of constituents asking questions about why we're here, what we're talking about. And I want everyone to understand that the Blue Book policy changes really were important that we address a few years ago. because we had to make some changes, but it is in a process of testing out the Blue Book policy. And then if we're seeing some problems with it, we should be able to go back in and improve upon it. And that was I think something we all understood when we tackled the Blue Book policy, and there were considerable changes. And I support that we needed to revamp Blue Book policy changes. But I think what's important to look at here, and I want the constituents and the other commissioners to understand that moving the vote to 3 can really have some unintended consequences. If you have 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans, that can be abused against the 2 Republicans and vice versa. You know, I don't want that situation. 4 votes are important to maintain, and I'm concerned that this change in policy is serving the goals of 1 commissioner. Even today, I believe that that's a good possibility. That's exactly why I think we should be very careful before we support moving this to 3 votes. All right.
Point of order, derogatory statements made about a commissioner.
I didn't mention a commissioner.
Would you please make your point of order request, and I will rule on it? That happens to be proper. This is about the umpteenth time we've discussed this. In the meantime, he didn't say anything derogatory, so you're overruled.
Without mentioning any name, I think that constituents and fellow commissioners should be concerned that this entire process today is to serve the goals of 1 commissioner. It's a good point. It's a concern we should balance while making this vote today. And I think that many people watching believe that that's a possibility. It also, I think most would agree, which we certainly heard today, that keeping it to 4 votes is an important point. That was the reason it was put to 4 votes years ago. And I had to experience the 3-2 problems we had a few years ago. And I was involved with that. And I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen again. So with that, I will not support this motion because I believe the votes need to be 4, not 3. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, being the chair, I guess I get last stab at this. What Commissioner Pinocci has said is from his history. What I said was from my history, and it's the reason for the 4. To go back to 3 is to go back to the chaos that it brings. There is no example of that not being a true statement. It is not for stability that it is brought. And with that, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor of adopting the rule changes to the internal policy manual will vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. And those opposed will do by the same sign. Aye.
Aye.
Carries 3-2. We now go on to old number 1, now number 2. Commissioner initiated to consider changing commission officers.
Mr. President, I ask that you pass the gavel to the Vice President for consideration under the next work session. I would like to cite specifically Robert's Rule 4710. It reads precisely whenever a motion is made that refers only to the presiding officer in a capacity not shared in common with other members, he or she should return the chair to the Vice President during the Assembly's consideration of that particular motion.
Oh, thank you for that input. Is there any discussion on his motion or allocation? Seeing none, you're now fully employed.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the chair will open work session on considering changing commission officers. Commissioner Bukacek.
Madam Chair, thank you. I move to declare the office of PSC President vacant. And if I get a second, I have some brief statements to make in support of my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bukacek.
So we have had close to 10 months of experience with our current choice, and it is time to make a change for the good of the order of the Public Service Commission and the public we serve. The Public Service Commission is arguably the most important agency in the state. The high quality of our staff's work is matched by their exemplary character traits. Our staff deserve the best in leadership and need to be allowed to optimize their productivity.
Thank you, Commissioner Bukacek. Is there further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Wellborn?
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to weigh in. First of all, President Molnar, you and I have had several conversations, some fairly long ones, and one is recently in the last week. And I will also add that they've been cordial, and I want to thank you for that. I also recognize that it's simply not about you and I, but it's more importantly about what I believe is our shared mission of doing good work on the behalf of all Montanans. When I say our, I mean not only yours and mine, I mean the rest of the commission. I also include staff in that. It's an all on hands, deck on hands approach, and I think the people of Montana deserve this. But I also believe that we need to hit the reset button. I think any reasonable person would agree that the mission of this has late become very disrupted, and I feel a change in the president is necessary in an attempt to put the distractions behind us. Distractions that aren't allowing staff, fellow commissioners, or commission in general to run at maximum efficiency, nor with the pride of ownership of the work that we are capable of doing here as a group and as a commission. And I think that that's something that is missing today that was actually in place just a few short months ago. For those reasons, I will be supporting the motion before us today.
Thank you, Commissioner Wellborn. Is there any other discussion? Commissioner Molnar.
Turns out I might have an opinion on this. Commissioner Wellborn, we did have a conversation about this, and it's my understanding you've had conversations about the chaos and dysfunction that comes with a 3-2 vote for leadership. Apparently, you didn't see the wisdom of any of that. And I would say, and I think everybody misses this point, the presidency is not a position, it's a job. The only real authority I have outside of what the commissioners on a 3-2 vote can override is to okay travel expenses. That's in statute. Only I can do that. I can delegate it, but nobody can take it from me. Other than that, everything you talk about, the presidency is determined every minute on a 3-2 vote. This doesn't change anything. Can I still hold a press conference? Yes. Can I still sue if I don't like the way things go at the governor's office? Dang tootin'. Can I schedule a work session? Yes. Can it be nullified by 3-2? Yes. Nothing of substance changes other than the experience. For example, David and I were talking about this earlier this morning. I am the only full-time commissioner who bought a house to be here and to perform the functions. Everybody else is here maybe 1 or 2 hours a week. And then they go home to their
Mr. President.
regular life.
Excuse me, Mr. President, I would ask that you restate your last comment because I think that's fodder for the press. It's quite untrue that there are commissioners here many days, even when you're not here, they're here. So I would ask you to just rephrase that part of your comment, if you would.
When I'm here, they're not here. And yet I'm here anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week. And that's what's required if you're going to sign everything. You can ask Patricia, I drive her crazy with saying, what's this expenditure for? What's the history of it? Why am I paying this? As opposed to delegate to somebody to do it, to work on the tranche 2.1. There's nobody else putting in the 30 hours a week it takes to do that. And that's a currently $200 million rate cost to MDU customers. If 2.1 goes down, we talked about that a little bit with the challenges to it at the FERC level. It goes on and it becomes a $2 billion increase for MDU. I can't pass that to anybody. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. So it's not a matter of, I brought this in case anybody needed it, a piece of plastic that says president. It's a job. I've never worn this. I've never worn it. I just don't care about titles. So when you're doing this, it's not about bringing stability when you've already voted in instability. It's about a personal preference. And whether I'm president or not president, I still have my votes on OMS board, now on Southern Power Pool, because that's a commissioner's job. If the new president doesn't want to do those things, they should say so, because if I get suspended, if I resign, if my health continues to deteriorate, somebody takes it over or the people of MDU take a whipping. It's that simple. Eastern Montana will not survive a $200 million rate increase or a $2 billion rate increase. So this is about not who gets along best with the other commissioners or who wants a title or any of that. This is about a functioning commission where everybody does their job. How many times have I asked for who can help me with regional and national issues? And the hands don't go up. The only hand that's gone up so far has been Commissioner Pinocchi, that he would take a board position on Southern Power Pool. So when you're doing this, it's not about what is being said. It is about changing the name, because indeed the function doesn't change. And if a person can't function at that level, the people of Montana suffer. So I can do everything other than that I've ever done, whether people like it or not, appreciate it or not, except for okay travel budgets. That's it. Everything else stays the same. This is a show. It's a sham, and I'm done.
Well,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bukacek,
I just want to say briefly, and then I have a little bit of more discussion about the motion.
just a moment, because I assume you want to close on your motion. Yes. All right. So is there any other discussion from other commissioners that have not had an opportunity to speak yet? Commissioner Pinocchi, do you have anything to say before we go to the close? Okay. You may close on your motion.
Thank you, Madam President. So there's a description of the PSC president's duties in our policy manual. It lines up well with other descriptions, such as how Robert's Rules describes the duties of presidents of boards. These are not my ideas, but are time-tested descriptions of duties of the president affirmed by multiple sources. So, Commissioners, as you carefully reflect upon the following descriptions, please judge for yourself whether or not these duties of the office of the president have been met by the current occupant of that office. I question whether any of the following duties have been met with any level of consistency this year. There are three main categories of duties of the president. One is to lead, moderate, and otherwise facilitate business meetings. I'll go into a little more detail of that. Number two, promote productive work relationships. Number three, represent the PSC agency. So under the first category, lead, moderate, and otherwise facilitate business meetings. To do this effectively, the president must work with staff and other commissioners to develop agendas and set priorities. Two, according to the description in our administrative policy 2.9.3.2, the president is responsible for the order and civil decorum of our meetings. to be done by following Robert's rules and fostering a positive environment that promotes open debate. So under the second category, promoting productive work relationships, that includes with other commissioners, with staff, the public, and representatives of the utilities we regulate. That is the president's duty to do that. And number 3, representing the PSC agency, that's the third category. The president is to act as a spokesperson for the organization, representing the views of the agency, not the personal views of the president. Number 2, according to 2.13.1.1.1, the president reports to and is to be directed by the commission, end of quote, as he is to act on our behalf. Number 3, under that the category of representing the agency, the president is to advocate and promote the vision, mission, and objectives of the Public Service Commission, which includes balancing the needs of utilities and their customers, being a model of good governance, and being a great place to work. Those are included in our vision and our mission and objectives, and it is the president's duty to promote those things. Number 4, under category 3, the president is to exemplify impartiality, lack of bias, and neutrality in all proceedings. So as I close, for the good of the order of the Public Service Commission and the public we serve, I urge support of my motion to temporarily vacate the office of the PSC president, to remove the current president. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bukacek. And just to clarify, the motion before the body is to vacate the office of the PSC president. And we will now go to a vote on Commissioner Bukacek's motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed to the motion, say no.
No.
The motion carries 3-2. Thank you. That concludes this work session. And now announcements. Per the IPM Administration Policy 2.9.3.5.1, it is the duty of the Vice President to assume the duties of President during the vacancy of the office of President. There is a responsibility of the Commission to fill the vacancy within 10 days under IPM policy. So I will ask the Commission if you would be amenable to scheduling that for next Tuesday, October 28th, or if the Commission would like to move into nominations and elections today. Any feedback or motion?
As you and I discussed earlier, Commissioner, I thought that's why the original order was there, boom, boom, to discuss vacancy and then change the rules, because it acted like a third reading in the legislature. The second reading is quite often hot. There's amendments. People think one way or another for a while. And then second reading comes up and there's been time to think about it. So I don't have any great umbrage one way or the other. I'm not really big on next week because I have an issue up, but I think I can do that one first and get around any acrimony that might happen. I think the discussion is not going to repeat itself. I think it's going to be fairly quiet. So if you wait until next week, listen to your constituents, listen to your heart, listen to your head, that's fine. If you want to listen to your heart and your head today, I'm good.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the Commission? Would the Commission like to schedule an election to fill the vacancy at our next business meeting on Tuesday, October 28th? Or would the Commission like to move to elections today? Commissioner Pinocci.
I'd like to make a motion to make the vote next week on Tuesday.
Okay. The motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's a motion to hold an election on Tuesday, October 28th at the Commission's next business meeting to fill the vacancy of president. Is there further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of Commissioner Pinocci's motion, please say aye.
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 And I say aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Going back to announcements, the president's appointments of commissioners do stand unless and until changed by a newly elected president. Any president's appointments of staff or reassignment of duties that have been contrary to the IPM or have been made without concurrence from supervisory staff are null and void. The agency coordinating team will convene briefly tomorrow at 10 a.m. Executive Director remains out on medical leave, but concurs in my calling this briefing to have a quick sit down with our management team. Finally, before closing, I would like to thank Commissioner Molnar. I know you've put a lot of effort into your job. I do. You gave it your all.
I shall continue to do all of my all.
I'm glad to hear that you will continue to do that. And I hope that as a commissioner and kind of relieved from the demanding role of administration, that you'll be able to focus on your role of commissioner and enjoy it. I really do hope that. It's my prayer that we can all move forward with genuine goodwill for one another and also with a keen focus on serving the people of Montana to the very best of all of our abilities. So with that, Mr. President, on the behalf of the commission, we thank you for your service to the commission and wish you well in your role as commissioner. Thank you. And there being no further business before the commission, we have a commission regularly scheduled business meeting on Tuesday, October 28th, scheduling meeting at 1 p.m., business meeting at 1:30 p.m. and seeing no further business to come before the commission. For the record, the time is 3:01 p.m. and the date is October 21st, 2025. This meeting is adjourned.
What time is that tomorrow?